This historical commentary is designed to be watched alongside the 1976 Midway movie. You can find where to watch it using the link in the show notes. And once you have the movie queued up, we'll let you know when we hit play on our side so you can hit play too. Hello, and welcome to Based on a True Story, the podcast that compares your favorite Hollywood movies with history. This year marks the 82nd anniversary of the Battle of Midway, and so today we're going to do something that we've never done on the podcast, a live stream watching the classic 1976 Midway movie with historian and co-author of Shattered Sword, The Untold Story of the Battle of Midway, Jon Parshall. Jon, thank you for joining me today.
Absolutely. Delighted to be here.
Oh, and for those of you watching at home, if you're looking for the 2019 movie with the same name that Jon was the consultant for, we've actually already talked about that one just last week on Based on a True Story, episode number 323. So check that out after our stream today if you want to continue the deep dive into Midway. But before we start watching the 1976 movie, Jon, can you share what your last experience was watching this film and kind of what your expectations are going into it now?
So, true story, the first and last time I saw this movie was in 1976 in the theater as a 13-year-old. And I remember walking out of that movie thinking that was hot trash. And of course, it was also one of the first instances of censoround, which is like what we would call normal movie theater volumes today. They were starting to get serious about trying to deafen us back in 76, but I was not impressed, so everybody, channel your inner Michaela Maroney, right? I didn't think it was good. And bear in mind that, as a 13-year-old, I was sort of doing the math. It's like, even as a 13-year-old, I had already been really into naval history for more than half my life at that point, and had been pretty interested in the Imperial Japanese Navy for at least the last 4 or 5 years at that point. So, I at least as a 13-year-old had an experiential basis with which to judge this movie. And so I'm looking forward to going back and reliving my teenagerhood today.
Are you ready to kick this one off? Okay, those of you watching at home, hit play in 3, 2, 1, play. Now you can see the movie time code on our side so you can sync anytime. Okay, now that you're synced up, we have to blur out the video on our side, but we'll keep the time code running so you can make sure that you're synced up with us at any time.
Would have been cooler with the Star Wars credits. Of course,
Yeah, that's the kind of what I was thinking too.
Yeah, right. But that movie is still a year away at this point. So we're obviously doing the Doolittle Raid here. Nice. I met 4 of them, actually, when they were still alive down in the World War II Museum in New Orleans, probably about 2013 or so. And this is all good. Looks good.
It's a little less color than the 2019 version of this.
Yeah. Now this is actual footage from the actual launch.
Oh, is it? Okay.
That one little clip that was actually taken on Hornet. This is not.
Okay, so they're mixing like actual footage with.
Yes.
Okay, that's what that intro text. Okay.
Yep, they absolutely are. None of this is real footage.
They didn't have follow planes on the trip to capture the footage of them flying?
I don't think so. No. Right over the fishing boat. That's beautiful. Of course, back then, you still probably had a fair number of B-25s that were still airworthy you could film this stuff with.
Yeah.
And I'm not a big Warbird fan, but we have plenty of people here in Minnesota that are.
It looks like they're flying really, really low.
And they did.
Did they?
Yeah, they did. When they came in over Japan, they were a couple thousand feet, a lot of them.
Wow.
And it was interesting, too, because a lot of the Japanese on the ground, particularly in Tokyo, didn't even know that these were American planes because there had just been an air raid drill that morning, and there had been some Imperial planes flying around. And so, until the bombs started dropping, they had no clue what was
Oh,
going
wow.
on. Yeah. Zip. It's a fairly optimistic estimate of the damage that's being done there.
There doesn't seem to be any anti-aircraft fire either.
Yeah, there really wasn't very
Hmm.
much. Okay, so Hiroshima, yeah, that makes sense because Imperial Navy's big anchorage is down near Hiroshima in a place called Hashirajima Bay. It's just part of the greater metropolitan environment there. The Naval Academy is very nearby at Ejima, too.
So this would be delivering news of the raid, I'm assuming, is...
Yep. Going to tell Yamamoto, who didn't need to be told, actually. He was on board, probably Yamato at that time. So that's a fallacy. Yamamoto had actually already gotten permission to do his raid against Midway.
Okay.
And that's a myth that's been in a lot of people's minds ever since, that it was the Doolittle Raid that led to Midway, but that actually is not true. The causation is different.
Maybe something I'm sure this movie did not help with that little scene.
No, and that's just the nature of beast with a lot of war movies. It's a convenient trope that if you're a visual storyteller, it makes sense to the audience and it moves the action ahead, but it ain't true.
Yeah.
In actuality, Yamamoto was on board his flagship and got the news there and was so upset that he took to his sea cabin and didn't come out for basically a day.
Oh, wow.
Pretty mortifying. Yeah, having Tokyo bombed. Okay, so here we
Secret
are.
base in
This has got to be
Shangri-La.
the code break. Yeah. So this is the code breaking outfit. I've actually been down in the basement in Pearl Harbor. They still have.
Wow.
This is not. It looks very much like this. There's still some 1940s vintage communication equipment down in that basement to this day. It's really cool.
Is it still active, or is it they're just kind of keep it as?
It is a working office. Okay. It is lots of classified stuff there. They actually had to clear it out to let us in the day that we came to visit. But yeah, it's pretty cool that you can still see some of the relics from the 40s.
That's
down
pretty
there.
cool.
So here's our man Rochefort in his bathrobe.
Did he actually wear a bathrobe like that?
He did. Yeah, he did.
Just get comfortable. Every day is casual Friday, right?
Well, he's working, 20-hour days down in this basement. I get it. He was kind of an eccentric character.
I like he's still got the uniform on. He's just wearing the bathrobe over it.
Yeah, that's fair. Can you turn that up a little?
No better.
Perfect. That's a true fact, actually. We were reading about 10% of the code groups.
Oh, really?
But you put it together with, traffic analysis and other clues, and you can get an idea what's going on. Fair.
That's great.
That is great. They were working just appalling hours. Nice. Of course, by then, and I'm not a huge scholar of the cryptographic angle of this thing, but I think even by the time we get to May, which is Coral Sea, they already, at least Rochefort had a pretty good idea that AF meant Midway already at that point. So, yeah. I don't even know who these two dudes are, to be honest. How bad is that? I'm assuming
Charlton Heston and his son.
It's got to be Leighton then.
Let me look that up.
Yeah.
Charlton Heston is playing Captain Matt Garth.
Matt Garth.
And then Tom Garth, I'm assuming, is his son.
Yeah. The hell is Matt Garth?
Maybe a made-up character?
Yeah. Maybe not. Yeah, okay, so he's based on Edwin Leighton, which would have been my guess. Leighton is Nimitz's intel officer.
Because we saw Leighton in the 2019 movie.
Yeah, I mean, he's the interface between Rochefort and Nimitz.
I wonder why they changed his name.
And I don't know.
Maybe some movies, I know, and I'm just speculating here, but if the person is still alive, they don't have name rights,
right?
Maybe, because this came out in 76. Maybe Leighton was still alive.
Yeah, Leighton was still alive. I think he passed in 78. Okay.
Maybe they didn't have permissions then.
Yeah, that could be. Okay, but bottom line, Nimitz's intel officer. That's what we need to know. So he's in love with the Japanese woman,
Yeah.
it would appear. The Nisei population on Hawaii, of course, is enormous, and they couldn't figure out what to do with them. They certainly couldn't ship them back to intern them in the U.S. It would have been completely counterproductive and stupid, as indeed it was in the mainland as well. But yeah,
Yeah, there was a pretty big they locked up a lot of people, didn't they? Even just on the assumption that they might be.
yep.
Yeah.
Okay, so those are decent models. I'm proving on that. They're swiping this model straight from Tora.
Really?
Yeah. Yeah, they had a huge set for Tora for Battleship Nagato. Right, so he's scheming up his battle plan here, which is... Oh. It's all fairly accurate. Naguma didn't have a mustache. I don't know why they gave him a mustache.
Was the force that large? 200 ships, 100,000 men?
It's within spitting distance. Not quite as many. They did use basically every ship in their inventory for this operation.
No.
Yep. Nope. You may think that. So that's all fairly accurate. There were a lot of rumblings within the senior commanders that they didn't like the battle plan, and particularly having to go up and capture the Aleutians was a complete sideshow. Why are you doing that? Also, just the way that the forces themselves were distributed, Nagumo's carriers are not going to be in a position to be supported by those other forces. So you got a lot of warships running around, but they're not necessarily mutually supporting. That was the fundamental problem with the battle plan.
Okay, so Coral Siege must have just happened.
Yep. So we're now in mid-May. Here's my man Nimitz. The Admiral Fletcher. I don't know why I call him Captain Fletcher. Right?
There's a lot of people for that little Jeep.
Yeah, buddy.
look, look all packed in.
Yeah. That's right on the money. Uh-huh.
So at this point, they have 2 carriers.
Correct. it. They didn't have to fly it to Midway because they had a secure undersea cable that went up there, and that's how they told Midway to transmit this message.
A lot faster than flying it there.
Yeah.
But it sounds like the basic gist of Rochefort kind of being the one to suggest that. It seems, I mean, you're saying that he already knew at that point after Coral Sea.
Yeah, he did. Really, what we're doing here is we're trying to settle the debate between the Pearl Harbor intel team and the Washington group. Rochefort is certain that AF is Midway, but the folks back in D.C. are very skeptical.
Just do what you're told.
Just do it. Just finish up.
Out here, the Japanese are going to intercept it.
Yeah, so far, I mean, they're doing a better job than I would have given them credit for. So I don't know where my 13-year-old self was. We'll get to the skepticism, I'm sure. Rotary phones. Yeah. He was not getting a lot of sleep around this time.
I bet.
It was not a diversion. It was a land grab. That's a classic myth, too.
Oh, that the Aleutians was a diversion.
Yeah. Yeah, it's one of the things we debunked in our book. longer. That ain't true. Yeah, his total task force is like 20 ships, so he's not going to have.
Oh,
yeah.
Well, earlier they mentioned the 200
superiority.
ships, 100,000 men. It just makes you think this is a huge.
And that's the image that has always been projected about this battle. Yeah, they had a lot of forces out there, but they weren't in the carrier force. Going to do a recon job before the battle.
Oh, to make sure that their intel's. They just came up with that operation name pretty quick.
Okay. Da, 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 da. But if they don't,
a little bit of foreshadowing there. It's not going to happen.
You think? So you got this big elaborate table here. Wasn't anything of the sort. It was literally a 4x8 sheet of plywood set on sawhorses with a map spread on top.
Oh, wow.
Of it. Yeah.
Wow.
And they blew that in the 2019 movie too.
That map is a little more impressive than something on sawhorses, though. So visually,
yeah, but this is the early part of the war. We're still making this stuff up, you know.
Yeah. Arming switches for the SBDs. Those would be the torpedo bombers, right?
And no, these are the dive bombers actually. And this is a new gizmo. Instead of having to manually activate your bomb fuse, you can flick a switch and it ends up screwing up during the battle.
Would Leighton be doing that? In charge of that?
Okay. No, that's an ordnance man kind of thing. I don't know.
Did Leighton have a son like that? This is Garth, so
I think this is our de rigueur love story that we have to have in any movie, so you can convince your SO to come with you to the theater.
Come watch a war movie,
right? And they did it in the 2019 movie too.
Yeah, that's true.
Sure.
Did they do that?
I don't think that that's the basis for their surprise, to be honest with you. Yeah. There was just a lot of moving parts at that point. They did do some fake traffic, absolutely.
It just seems funny that, on one side they're like, oh, there's not enough details. And it's like, oh, no, there's too much details. It's like you can't win either way.
Right. Yeah. Which would never have happened. The Japanese never had any intention of trying to invade us.
Did we know that, though? I mean, putting context back then, maybe not.
And that, you're absolutely right. I mean, you put yourself in our shoes at that point in time. The Japanese look 10 feet tall.
Yeah.
And they've been victorious everywhere they've gone. This is a really dark, dark time in the war. Like, that's exactly what it did. Fleet opposed invasion. Yeah, it is kind of, it's hard for me to sort of get my head back to what was the state of scholarship on this battle in 1976. Yeah. But they're maybe 7.
You always give optimistic numbers, though.
Yeah. Yep. Incredible little models. They even got the island on the right side of the ship. Yeah. Mikagi was a weirdo. She had her island on the port side rather than the starboard.
So this would be in late May when they're leaving Japan?
Yeah, they sortie on the 27th. Okay. Talking about Fuchida, who just had an appendicitis. He's the air group commander on this ship. Oh, okay. Here we go. Fuchida, my nemesis. Okay. Yes, Agenda is the air staff officer who plans all the operations. Fuchida is the air group commander on Akagi.
Okay.
Genda is sort of seen as the in-house genius. So yeah, not good portents. So they're sortying from Hashirajima Bay, and then they transit through the inland sea to the inlet between Shikoku and Kyushu, and now they're out in the Pacific Ocean. Okay. Meanwhile,
and since the Americans haven't left yet, I'm assuming then that Japan is longer. It's going to take longer for them to get there then.
Yeah. It's a much longer transit. It's about 1,100 nautical miles from Oahu up to Midway. It's the better part of 3,000 from Tokyo across. Yeah.
They're really giving him a wide range of tasks, from working on the dive bombers to intelligence to apparently following up
Yeah.
on the FBI reports. Like,
Yeah, he's Mr.
he does.
Fix-It.
I guess, some movies do composite characters or multiples, and he's just taking all the different jobs of everybody
Yeah.
into one person.
Yeah. Uh-oh. Why not?
Oh, he's sneaking behind his son's back.
I didn't know that. I completely didn't even remember any portion of this.
That's okay. Apparently, none of it happened anyway. So,
Right? Exactly. There was no Garth.
Yeah.
Yeah, Garth Senior or Garth Junior.
It is an interesting thing for the filmmakers to pull in the Japanese side, though.
Yes. Well, yeah. Around this time, I mean, there's got to be a growing appreciation for just how incredibly unjust the internment really was. Okay, so here's Admiral Halsey suffering from psoriasis or shingles or some damn thing that makes him incredibly itchy. And he was a wreck. I mean, by the time he gets back from this cruise, he hasn't been sleeping.
Oh, wow. That was fast.
Yeah, it was fast. So again, we're completely overlooking Frank Jack Fletcher, who actually is the senior carrier commander in this battle and will be Struance's commanding officer. But this is a portion of the historiography where Fletcher has been sidelined, and frankly, his career ruined too.
Was there a reason for that? Like, just to completely...
Oh, yeah,
Okay.
yeah. And you don't even want to get going on that. There's a guy named Turner who ends up kind of stabbing him in the back during the Guadalcanal campaign. It's a whole big thing. Fletcher's only recently been sort of resurrected, I guess I would say, or rehabilitated in the scholarship that happened around starting in 2006 when my friend John Lundstrom came out with his biography of the man. Anyway. This must be Fletcher. Okay.
Oh, that's Fletcher then?
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, at least he's in the movie.
Yeah, good. He wasn't in the 2019 one. Well, Rochefort has good intel on that. Anyway. Notice how they, made it look overwhelming. We got 3 ships against this whole table full.
Yeah. Yeah. 200. He said it again, right? The 200 ships.
Yeah, right.
Although I noticed he mentioned a 4-to-1 superiority. I think the Japanese said 5-to-1. So there was a little discrepancy even in the movie there.
Yeah. And again, just because of the distributed nature of the formations, it's all balderdash. You send 40 odd ships up to the Aleutians. They're not doing much for you down here in Midway. Anyway.
Sure. Sounds like a big contrast in the movie, though.
Yeah.
He's got binoculars looking out. That's not creepy at all.
Right? Whatever. I don't even know that Ray would have made a joke like that. I suppose he had a sense of humor, but you don't get that very much from the man. He was incredibly studious, very, very serious. Almost like a machine in a lot of ways. That's his own son would describe him that way.
This almost seems like he's second guessing himself.
Yeah. I don't know that there was ever any sort of consultation between these two guys.
Go back to the binoculars.
He's checking out the nurses. Whatever. All right. All right, so the 28th. This will be Yorktown limping in.
Coming into Pearl or leaving?
Well, yeah, they depart on the 28th, but Yorktown doesn't leave for a couple days further.
Okay.
That's verbatim, right out of the battle plan.
Really?
And they mentioned the battle plan by name too, Op 2942. Okay, so stop right here.
Okay.
This was the scene that suspended my disbelief. Okay. So, Yamato is the biggest battleship in the world, right? She's a 68,000 ton behemoth, and they're using here a 2,500 ton U.S. post-war destroyer to depict her. As a 13-year-old, I was just like, I'm done.
Even as a wow.
No, because I've got a model of Yamato sitting on my shelf by that point as a 13-year-old, and she's this huge, glorious beast, and I'm just like, really, dudes? You couldn't have built me a model and put it in a bathtub? That would have been better than using this damn thing. But anyway, pray continue.
Well, I'm glad you pointed that out, though. That difference, because just watching this, I
God.
wouldn't know.
Yeah. Again, if you're steaming 300 miles behind your carrier force, what good are you going to do them if they get in any sort of a fight? None.
Yeah. Looks like they got a lot more than those 3 ships the Americans had that on that map.
Yeah, that's right. And this is fairly accurate. They did not patch up all of her boilers. She was not able to get up to full speed, but she was capable of steaming, and that's all that they needed her to do.
Okay.
Yep.
High priority fixes. Make sure it works and then get it out.
Yeah, right. Don't leak oil. Make sure you can steam. Meanwhile, back at the romance that never happened. Oh.
Nope.
Oh. She can't.
Yeah.
That was pretty bold for the time. I mean, you didn't see a lot of interracial marriages, that's for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Especially in the military, I'm sure, too.
Yeah. A lot of Pearl Harbor conspiracy theories.
We knew about it.
Yeah.
Did the conspiracies around Pearl start that quick? I mean, assuming this is happening just a little bit afterwards. Okay.
Oh,
I mean,
yeah. Oh, God. No, it started, the day after it happened.
I could see that.
Yep. The analog there is what happened on 9/11.
Yeah.
We as a country are just not used to getting caught with our pants down like that. So it certainly couldn't have been the enemy was smarter than us. There's got to be some spooky internal thing going on here,
yes. And then kind of what we were talking about when we talked about the 2019 movie, like a lot of the looking at it from our perspective now, okay, now that we know that this happened, even back then, I mean, without the decades of research that we've done in the meantime, but just knowing that this happened, okay, what are the signs that I can point to back then that,
right.
See that.
Cherry pick my information and
Did Leighton actually go out on the Yorktown? Okay, just making sure. Now he's another somebody else too.
No, there's no way Nimitz was going to let Leighton out of his arm's reach. Are you kidding me? You're my staff intel officer. You're staying right here, buddy. I will say, in terms of the Pearl Harbor stuff, that yes, we had run exercises back in the 30s where we had launched a carrier raid against Pearl Harbor. But the difference between that raid, which is, 40 planes, and the Japanese coming with 400 planes, there's a vast difference between.
Ooh, some tension between.
We're going to have to patch this relationship up at the end of the movie. I'm sure it's all going to come out right.
Oh, of course.
This is Hollywood, right?
Of course.
Yes.
Intelligence is always downstairs.
Right?
They're always in the basement.
Yeah, always in the basement. It's not even that capacious, too, I'll tell you. Notice that they're not using any like subtitles to introduce people to us too. It's just like, oh, another American dude.
Yes. Well, you have so many characters that, you got to know.
Yeah. Oh, we're in the FBI, okay, or something like that.
He's interfering for his.
Yeah, he's intervening.
Yes. I also work on dive bombers in my spare time too.
Exactly. Yeah. In some ways, the most interesting subplot of the movie thus far.
Yeah, I know.
Completely fictional.
It looks like he burned a bridge
like
there.
He's burning some bridges. His kid hates him. His friend hates him. Icy formality.
Yeah.
Okay, meanwhile, Yorktown finally sails on the 30th. Yep. These are, of course, all post-war Essex-class carriers because that's the only thing they got to film on. Oh, he's going to die. It's clear, isn't it?
Yeah.
The kid's going to die.
I mean, there's this tension, and the question is, are they going to patch it up before?
Right. Yeah, is this love story not going to end happily?
Meanwhile, the actual thing.
Yeah, the actual battle. That is true. Yep.
Just pure luck, I'm assuming, just like that, just coincidence.
We kind of thought that they had done an operation like that earlier in the war, and we were kind of like, where did they refuel those big flying boats? Maybe French frigate shoals would be a good place to park a submarine tender. And
Okay.
so we sent a couple ships up there, including a destroyer. And so the refueling submarine showed up and was like, huh, no can do. So they scrubbed the op. So now they think the Americans may be on to them.
Yeah.
So there's a whole lot of nuance around Operation K, and I'm not going to get into it. Suffice to say, it didn't have that impact on the Japanese that it's appearing to have in the movie.
Okay. Is K the Aleutian Islands?
K is this recon flight using the flying boats that were going to be refueled at French frigate shoals.
Okay, that's right.
Get scrubbed. Yeah,
the one that they just came up with the name as.
Yeah, right. Boom.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, this is a very impressive looking war room, which is probably about 6 times larger than the office space that Nimitz actually had available to him. It's a Catalina. Cute.
Yep.
So yeah, we had a couple dozen of these Catalinas up at Midway, and we're flying them as recon planes, obviously.
Is that all they were used for then? Is pretty much just recon at that point, going around?
A lot of these. No, they're very long range, So yeah, they're putting out recon birds.
Okay, yeah, so
every day.
Spreading out.
Yeah. Strawberry 5. So yeah, here we are on the morning of June 4th. That wasn't incredibly obvious, but
so they know the Japanese must be somewhere close, and that's why they're...
Well, they anticipate that they are, and so we've been running these recon flights every day for past couple of weeks at this point.
That's good context, because it's not like they were just like, oh, June 4th, let's go ahead and start.
No. Yeah, they've been flying ops for a while.
Okay.
We've been loading as many aircraft into Midway as possible to get ready for this battle, and one of the things we do is beef up the search assets. So there are a lot more Catalinas up there than normal.
And you had mentioned the U.S. had radar at this point, right? But they were still primarily using Catalinas instead?
Well, the Catalinas don't have radar at this point in the war. We've got radar on our ships that's useful for air warning purposes, but it isn't useful in terms of doing surface search and that kind of stuff. Not out to range.
Okay.
You're limited by the visual horizon, or the radar horizon, which is only slightly larger. So
okay.
Yeah.
I think I hear the term radar and I think of, the radar we have now, which obviously it's a little more advanced than it was then. But
yeah, a little bit more. So here are our plucky Marines on the island of Midway, getting ready for an attack that they think may be coming. You won't. F4Fs are not relics.
No.
Okay. Get some models here.
Bad weather, it looks like.
Those are pretty good. Yeah. And that was true. Okay, so it's not June 4th. We're back on the 2nd.
Thank you for letting me know what the issue was there. Appreciate it.
Beautiful. Yeah. Well, there was one of the Japanese guys complains that Yamamoto was not forwarding on the information that he had to hand to Nagumo. That's one of the things we, again, debunked in our book. Actually, Nagumo had pretty much all the information in his hand that Yamamoto had as well.
Okay.
So, but what you're seeing is the subtle finger of Fuchida, again, in the historical sources. Yeah.
So for the true story, there you go. Get that.
Bingo. That's right. Appreciate it. There's no way they're going to the West Coast, my dudes.
Oh, just that one.
That's right.
I can't help but think
These
that's
dudes are
another
gonna-
looking at it from now to back then, because why, if you know it's that one, why send all the others?
Yeah, right. This is the invasion force, which again is slightly ahead of the carrier force because of the weird sailing times.
Okay.
It's not the main body, it's the invasion force. The main body should have battleships and carriers and that kind of stuff. There's nothing of that.
But did they know that when they, like...
Well, they should have. If they'd done a good scouting report, they should have.
Okay.
Do you see anything big there? Yeah, but it's... Yes, that's exactly right. So we're June 3rd.
Shouldn't get excited about that.
Right. Ding, ding, ding.
There's just so much. I don't know.
Yeah.
Who knows? Maybe this, maybe that.
Yeah, maybe that. And that's the way the game is played. There was no such message.
No.
So this is a contrivance for the movie. In actuality, Nimitz had already sent an order on the 2nd of June to have Fletcher move his carriers further to the west. And so this is all kind of...
Okay. So not expected
this
after
is
the
all
storm.
Yeah, this is all made up. That's a fairly credible representation of Akagi's bridge.
A little different than, what was it, Yamato? That it was a little different.
Yeah, Yamato.
Oh, he was the guy who was sick.
Yeah, he had the flu.
Okay.
He's the air god. which Nagumo relied upon very heavily because Nagumo was not a carrier guy. He was a cruiser admiral, surface fighter. Nostalgia for the flatlands.
Reminisce of home.
Yeah, Texas. He's a Texas boy. It's intriguing to me that, flashing back to that last scene, that they're making Nagumo to be a much more dynamic individual than I think he actually was historically. Historically, he was very reliant on Genda to tell him what to do. So
Interesting.
Yeah. Seven, actually. Well, 5. Yeah. Never mind. Sorry. Historians were like, well, the nitpicky nuance thing. And shut up, John.
No, that's why
right.
That guy, he is so optimistic about everything. Like, we got this.
Yeah. Well, at the end of a 6-month run where you've been kicking butt consistently across the Pacific.
Yeah.
There is no younger, older dichotomy here between these carriers. These groups are all extraordinarily experienced.
There's no junior varsity and varsity teams on.
Not with these 4 carriers. There's not. These guys are all the A team. And this was standard doctrine for them, that they would put up half of the planes on each carrier, put them into a big package, and then they would have another half back on their flight decks or in the hangars waiting.
Okay.
It's just easier to get that package off as one little deck load package, put 4 of those up, turn them into a big strike force, and then off they go. It went further than 100 miles. It went to like 175. So we're on the eve of the battle here. It's dawn, starting to put up some scout planes.
So they've already spotted the Japanese once, but they're putting up more to find who else is there, because they think they might not be everything.
Yes, that's right.
Okay.
Okay, so what's your bet? Does the younger Garth, does he die? I think he buys it. I don't think we get a happy love story at the end. I think we get a tearful Japanese girl.
I could see him dying, and then the father having to be the one that delivers the news to her, right? Because he already visited her once. Yeah,
right.
I could see that.
Actually, Dad just went through a divorce. Maybe he scoops her.
I don't know. I mean, he did go through all that intervening for him. Maybe.
Right. Yeah. Okay, here we are in Akagi. This is fairly credible. I'm grooving on this. Okay. The sets look good. That's a fairly good representation of her gun directors. Twin 25mm anti-aircraft guns. All right, game on.
Order. Yep.
0430. Let's do this thing.
Up, and they're all racing to the planes. All right.
Yep. Yeah, buddy.
Maybe another.
This is recycled Tora footage. Actually,
is it really?
Sure is.
I was going to say, it looks like they're going to Pearl.
Yeah. Right. Cool.
That's like catapulting from the plane or from the ship, right? Not as opposed to a carrier. Yeah.
Yeah. They send up 7 scouts. 2 of them come from the carriers, but the other 5 are coming from their cruisers. Okay. And one of them does go off a half an hour late for reasons we still don't completely understand. Yeah.
Some sort of technical problem, I'm guessing. I mean, it seems
maybe. Well, they use black powder charges to launch their catapult aircraft, and if you've got a misfire on one of those things, this also is out of Tora. You got a 50-pound black powder charge that may or may not be live. Underneath this airplane, you're going to be a little skittish, coming up to that thing. Yeah, this is all Tora stuff.
Guess once you've already shot it, just reuse it.
Right? There's my man, Tominaga. He's the air group commander on Hiryu. He's just been posted to this carrier. This is his first battle, but he's an old, experienced China hand, and they know what they're doing.
Well, the way the movie's setting this up, it makes me think that those Japanese planes are going to run into this scout plane, and that Catalina is going to be in some trouble.
Yeah, there actually was an encounter, but both forces just kind of like waved and went by. Yeah, and one of the Catalinas then sends a scout report back to Midway saying many planes inbound Midway.
They're coming right now.
Yeah.
Up there. Yep.
That's yeah.
These scout planes don't send that much data. They're just
yeah.
We see something.
Actually,
what?
Go ahead and pause here briefly.
Okay.
Actually, I just want just a brief mention of just how incredibly difficult at this point in time it was to actually send off a good scouting report. I mean, your navigational aids in your plane, at least in the Catalina, you've actually got a navigator who supposedly should know where your plane is. But, you have to figure out where am I? What am I seeing? Have I got good ship IDs? Can I actually tell that those wakes out there is that a carrier? I don't know. Hopefully you get a good ship ID, but then you've also got to transmit on the basis of, the height of their bow waves and that sort of thing. What's their heading? What's their speed? Where are they located relative to me? Because they could be, 20, 30 miles over in that direction. So it's not uncommon at this point in the war to have these scout reports come back that are off by 50, 60, 80 miles in some cases, okay? Which is why, a lot of people sort of look at this battle ex post facto and they're like, well, if Fletcher had just put his carriers precisely here, then they would have been... It's like, dudes, just getting 2 carrier forces within the same neighborhood where they can fight a battle is almost a minor miracle at this point in the war. That's where we are technologically.
And it makes sense then. I mean, to be able to see that far off and be able to identify it then, and then, that's not easy.
The other thing that a lot of people sort of misapprehend is they think that scout planes fly at high altitude. And that is not true, because if you've got any sort of cloud cover, broken cloud cover, you'll be able to see straight down underneath you relatively easily. But the further out, the more acute your angle becomes to those clouds, the more and more opaque that cloud cover becomes. So typically, a lot of these planes are flying 1,500 feet, maybe 2,000. They want to be below the cloud cover because, among other things, what you're going to be able to do is I'm going to use the horizon as my sighting mechanism. Oh, there's bumps, sticking up above the horizon. Now I'm going to scoot over in that direction. And they will play games around, I'm going to, try to find cloud cover that I can hide behind and then duck out, get a glimpse of the fleet, try to count the number of ships, get a course and speed, sort of information, and then duck back into the clouds. Because, of course, the enemy carriers are going to have combat air patrol fighters out looking for you too. So it's really very, very difficult for these aircraft to put together a good scouting report. And this is something that you just see over and over and over again during the war, is that these scouting reports, particularly the early part of the war, are garbage.
It's interesting because in the movie just then we saw the Catalina be like, oh, I see the Japanese planes. We better get down into the cloud cover. So they were above it beforehand.
Right. And they shouldn't be above it. They should be underneath it if all goes well. And the cloud cover that we see in the movie there was not as dense as what was actually occurring during the battle. It was a little more broken than that. But that's correct. As a Catalina driver, I'm driving this large, slow plane.
A boat, literally.
Yeah, I don't want to get in a fight with a Zero. The thing is going to clean my clocks. And so I don't know that, there should be strike escorts with that strike that I see heading off towards Midway. If a couple of those dudes decide to peel off and go after me, I'm in a world of hurt. So absolutely, I'm going in.
Yeah, I could see that. You don't stand much of a chance.
Yeah, absolutely not. All right, let's roll.
And 3, 2, 1, hit play.
You damn certain that was Strawberry 5 you heard?
Positive, Skipper. It was their call letters.
You should have said that right off the bat. Band is 5 o'clock. Yeah. Right?
Okay, so they're the ones letting Midway know there's...
Yes, letting Midway there's planes inbound. Which happens.
Yeah. It's an interesting little point there too of I mean, the excitement of it, the adrenaline that has to be part, like all this kind of stuff, that they're human.
Yes, they're human beings. Human beings at very early part of the war too.
Yeah, this is probably the first battle that most of them have been in.
A lot of these guys, have never been in a fight before. Never seen the elephant. Okay, so this is historically accurate as well. Because of the cloud cover, there was never an occasion during this entire day when any of the scout reports reported more than 2 Japanese carriers at a time, because the formation was, just under clouds and spread out a lot of.
Okay. Anyway. As opposed to the 200 that they had.
Right, exactly. Yeah. It's right on the money. I don't know that Spruance smokes cigars. Never seen him with a cigar. All right. Here comes Tominaga and the boys. This is 108 aircraft that they have coming over to pound Midway. They will go in with the level bombers first, then they'll finish up with the dive bombers second. And here go our brave boys.
Nope, there's the antiquated planes, I think they called them.
Yeah. These are actually F6F Hellcats, which are late war, because there are not a lot of flyable Wildcats around, I presume. Got the old style helmets here, which is also realistic. Major parks. Okay, so those are actually Wildcats. I'm impressed with that. That's the actual fighter that we're using here, not their big brother, the Hellcat, which is later war. So we do get an initial run in. We get a couple of Japanese planes, but then it all goes pear-shaped.
Some of this footage looks...
This is all late war stuff.
Is it? Okay. I was going to say, some of it looks like it's obviously for the movie, and then the quality of it changes, and it looks like there's almost some
and that's actual
footage, yeah.
That's actual gun camera footage.
But probably not. Do we have any actual footage from Midway? Okay, so this is all going to be... Okay.
This is an amazingly poorly documented battle from a photographic standpoint. So what ends up happening here is the Japanese escort fighters just absolutely chew our fighters to pieces. Silence. That's right. Yeah, it was really, really bad.
Well, that kind of alludes to what we were talking about earlier with, a lot of these pilots, probably the first action, whereas the Japanese, they'd already...
These guys are the A-team, and they're flying a very maneuverable plane in the Zero. A lot of these pilots on the American side had not had a lot of time to do training. They weren't using the right tactics against a Zero. You shouldn't try to dogfight it. So yeah, with Buffaloes and Wildcats, if you're not flying right, particularly in the Buffalo, you die.
Fail, yeah.
And that's what happened. I forget the number of flyers that we lose that morning, but it's bad. That squadron basically is wiped out.
Okay.
Oh. Nice.
Little detail there.
Well done. Now, why we've got battleship masts suddenly sticking up there, I think that was Pearl Harbor footage that they jacked, hoping that a sharp-eyed historian wouldn't notice that.
Reusing footage again.
Absolutely, baby. Yep. Yes. Yeah, a lot of this is Tora stuff.
Yep. Got to hit the gas tank.
Tora, yeah. So Tominaga did have his fuel tanks hold during this raid, and that's going to affect his it's going to affect his prospects. We're still decent. This also is straight out of Tora. Yeah. I don't know why they felt obliged to put that in.
They didn't have bombers crash landing on the...
Yeah, there actually was footage taken of a B-17 that crash landed on during the Pearl Harbor attack, but that was just kind of gratuitous there.
Well, that's right, because not to switch to Pearl Harbor, but they had the bombers that were coming in at that. Okay, so that's...
Yep.
But Midway would not have had any of... Okay.
Nope. Okay. We did have B-17s up, but they certainly weren't trying to land at that point in time. That's a fancy looking chair for you.
That's what you get for sending the JV.
Yeah. They were never going to destroy the airstrip. That is correct. Which you don't know are out
So
there.
this is the bombs or torpedoes.
You got it. They're really portraying Nagumo here as a much more savvy, aggressive leader than I think the historical record would support.
Really?
That's interesting. Yeah.
It looks
Yeah.
like he really is focusing on and getting a lot of advice from these almost picturing like, the devil on one side and the angel on the other shoulder, right?
Right. Yeah, shoulder angels,
Yeah.
right? Straight out of The Emperor's New Groove. Another movie of historical significance.
Yes, we'll do that one next.
Okay. I'd just like to note that the set here is probably 4 times the size of the Kagi's bridge. It was 11 by 14 feet. It's just tiny. We know that this never actually happened, that the strike planes were not up on the flight deck. They were always in the hangars, but they are going through this rearming snafu down here in the hangar decks. Torpedoes off, bombs on. It's not nearly that fast.
It looks kind of like the pit crews and the race cars.
Yeah.
They come in and they.
Yeah. Okay. So among other things, the mounting brackets for the ordnance has to be switched out completely.
Oh, okay.
You have different mounts for torpedoes than you did for these land attack bombs. That's what takes the time, is to get all that hardware off the goddamn plane and then put the new hardware on and then get the right ordnance on. Probably takes about 90 minutes to do that whole evolution.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it's a long process.
I can certainly understand the hesitation to issue that order.
Exactly.
Then, do we really want to do that? Because then we're kind of stuck and waiting.
Yes, that's right. Yep. Actually, it does look kind of like Spruance. Yeah.
Pretty good casting, huh?
Yeah.
Okay, so sounds like he's going to launch.
Yeah, he's going to launch.
It's always the last one.
It's always the last one. Here he is. Our boy. His name is Amari. He does not live through the war. And yeah, lo and behold, oopsie doopsie. Beepity beep beep.
It's interesting. The American planes are sending back regular reports, but the Japanese planes are sending through Morse code.
That is accurate.
Really?
They
Okay.
are using radio telegrams. Yep. Radio telegraphs.
Of course, it's number 4.
Of course. It's about right. That's absolutely right on the money. It's exactly what he says.
So not
And he
switching
does
them back,
immediate-
but just stopping in the middle.
Well, actually, he orders it reversed, so that was historically inaccurate. Yeah.
I'm still trying to figure out what his role is. He seems to do everything.
Right. Yeah. Why don't you go down and check the electrical, the arming switches and make sure those are all working
He'll be in
too.
the engine room next. Yeah.
That's right. Oh, man. Yeah, it's because they're skipping ahead of the fact that Waldron had been part of a larger group of aircraft, and Waldron is convinced that that larger group is not heading in the right direction, which was true, and basically goes and tells his air group commander to get wrecked, and he takes his squadron off and heads towards the Japanese on his own reconnaissance.
Oh.
So he's basically insubordinate, but he's the only squadron from Hornet that is going to attack today.
Huh.
Yeah. You shouldn't. You shouldn't like it.
It's usually not a good thing.
Yeah.
But again, that kind of goes to, I mean, they're human, and especially inexperienced,
Yeah. Waldron he knows exactly, I don't know why he knows, but he flew like, on a rope right to the Japanese formation. They didn't specify the name of the carrier. It was a Yorktown class carrier, but that describes all three of the carriers that the Americans have up here. They're all sisters.
Yeah, the Japanese scout planes are a lot better at identifying the specific ships than the American scout planes are.
Right.
Yeah.
Mm.
It's because they're using the Morse code, that it's much more specific.
Right. That's it. Right. No, they didn't do that. Again, telegraph.
Yeah. Oh, he's the one that got shot in the field. Yeah.
Yeah, he gets shot. Yeah. This is part of the debate that he's having to make at this point on the bridge is, do I launch now with anything that I've got, or do I
bring them in? Is that across all the carriers they had, or just one?
Two actually. Okay. So Akagi and Kaga are having to switch their level bombers from torpedoes to land attack bombers, and now back to torpedoes. The dive bombers are on Carrier Squadron 2, which is a Hiryu and Soryu. Okay. They could be armed much more quickly. So yeah, it's really Akagi and Kaga that are the hold up here.
And now Yorktown's coming in.
Yep. They say Yorktown, actually, this should be Enterprise. Well, Enterprise and Hornet have already got their planes up in the air, obviously, because we've just seen Torpedo Squadron 8. So, yeah, this should be Yorktown. Once again, Wildcats. The historical
sound of those things starting up.
Is this the last time these two see each other?
Oh yeah, okay, maybe.
No. That's a Hellcat. That's a late war.
I'm watching them take off.
TBF Avenger, which is not on the carriers at this point in time. There's 6 of them flying from Midway itself. This is their combat debut. And 5 of them get shot down. Pretty ugly. All right, so this is our morning strike. This is Tomonaga's guys landing back. That's exactly right. And as soon as he turns onto an this is the actual clip right here is the one that again, that's Battleship Yamato.
Yeah.
No. My 13-year-old rebelled.
Like, nope.
My 13-year-old self. Or so you hope.
They had confidence.
Yeah, they did. Well, all of their intel plans or intel reports suggested that there were no American carriers nearby. So Nagumo is in no way prepared to fight a carrier battle this morning.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah, not at all. That's why he only has 7 scout planes up looking around for the enemy. If he had had an intel report that had said there could be carriers here, they would have had twice that.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah.
So another scrambling and trying to figure out what to do moment there.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, so here are brave boys from Torpedo Squadron 8 that have left their main air group behind, and now Waldron and his squadron are going to attack.
And this is the first Americans attacking the Japanese.
There have actually been ground-based planes from Midway, including those first 6 TBFs. They attacked at around 0700. It is now about 0917. This is the first of the carrier aircraft that are going to attack.
That's right. Yeah, we saw the other planes get pretty much demolished. Yeah,
and these guys are not going to have a much better day at the ranch. I shouldn't be spoiling it like that, right?
Oh, that's fine. This happened a little bit ago. Hopefully people...
Yeah.
It's the movie came out in 1976, I think.
Right. Spoiler alert. These guys don't do well. Yeah, that's a problem. Yeah.
So they think it's basically just a stall tactic.
Yeah, which it's not. Yeah, these guys. This particular torpedo plane, the Devastator, is obsolete, really. And the Japanese just chew them to pieces.
Yeah, again, it looks like there's a good mix of it.
Yeah. These are all Japanese planes. The footage is of real Japanese planes being shot down late in the war, but they're pretending it's American planes. Yeah. The bottom line is BT-8, 15 planes in, 15 planes shot down. Wow. Only one guy left alive in the water.
Wow.
It's a bloodbath. This is Ensign Gay. He will be our sole survivor. That's an American ship. American 5-inch 38s.
It's never been hit yet.
That footage is actually of a Japanese plane crashing during the Battle of Philippine Sea, 44.
It is an interesting filmmaker decision to include some of that.
There's only so much footage around, right? Yeah.
Did he just fly by without dropping his torpedo?
He dropped it first, and then he flew over the deck, and that is actually historically accurate.
Wow, okay.
Yeah, or damn near.
Oh, and then just...
Yeah. It's actually Ensign Gay who ends up doing that. He's going to make it out.
Okay.
Yeah. Oh, yes, we're using a historical footage of a crashed American plane and a guy getting out. That's going to be our guy Gay. But as they allude to, this is taking time off the clock. And that's a precious commodity in warfare. And Nagumo's starting to run out of time at this point. So here is Ensign George Gay swimming to his life preserver.
Yeah, you can tell the quality change in the footage.
Yeah, right. Somebody had better checked out those electrical arming switches.
Send Leighton on that.
Here we are. Yeah, yep. Bombing 3, Mr. Leslie. Here we go.
Oh, no.
Yeah. Boom.
Don't have your intelligence officers fixing your switches.
Right? Everybody knows that.
It's in the manual, isn't it?
Yeah. So of these 15 planes, 3 of them end up accidentally dropping their bombs.
No.
Yeah.
So then do they just turn around, or are they just there to provide cover?
No, they continue on. Okay, here we have John, otherwise known as Jimmy Thatch. Jimmy has been thinking up some new tactics for how to fight the Zero. And he's got this idea. And he's going to end up putting that into play here. They really are pulling out the stops in terms of, introducing all of the historical squadron leaders and that kind of thing. Again, you look at the 2019 movie, you don't see half of these guys.
These are all from the Enterprise and Hornet, right?
These are from Yorktown,
okay.
Actually. Yeah. Anytime you see a 3, Bombing Squadron 3, Torpedo Squadron 3, those are okay. Yorktown's birds. So here come the torpedo planes. Yeah. Also true. That is correct. That's historically right on the money. Yeah. They have a hot new experimental dive bomber on Soryu very fast, and they're going to launch her as a scout to go out and look.
Oh, okay.
Yep.
To see if there's multiple more carriers out there, basically, right?
Right. Exactly. And they never do end up spotting any of our carriers except the Yorktown, and so that's
Interesting.
That's a problem for the Japanese. But as Nagumo's already pointed out, just the sheer number of planes that are starting to line up on them would suggest that there are multiple enemy carriers out there, not just one.
It sounds similar to what on the American side, where they're like, okay, we see 2 of them, but there have been reports of 4, so must be some others out there somewhere.
Yes. Okay, so Jimmy Thatch has got a real problem here, and there's like 20 Zeros about to go after him. And he's going to use this new tactic called the Thatch Weave, where basically you have 2 elements of planes that are constantly swiping any enemy fighters off the tail of the other guy with head-on passes.
Okay.
He loses one of his 4 planes, but the other 3 implement this new tactic that he's come up with, and they manage to keep themselves alive. Up.
Oh, that's the sun. Yeah, I think you might have called it on that one.
Yeah.
So at this point, the Japanese have pretty much just been defending. They haven't really done many more offensive things, right? Okay.
That's exactly right. And this is a problem because the Japanese have got crappy radars or radios on their fighters, and they don't have any radar on their ships, so they can't really centrally coordinate their combat air patrol. These fighters are up there doing their own thing. Okay, here goes our hot new experimental plane, D4Y Judy. Oh.
Oh, he said Yorktown class instead of specifying that it is specifically the Yorktown. Yeah.
Right.
Uh-oh.
Okay, this is historically accurate too.
So
that
they couldn't send out a signal. Okay.
It's a brand new plane, and the radio didn't work. And so now they got to turn around. They're going to fly back to their fleet and drop a message on the flight deck of the Hiryu.
Oh, wow. Like a message in a bottle.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah, exactly.
Wow.
You got it. Yeah. Again, though, I don't believe that they ever detected the other 2 American carriers. That Judy, that scout plane, was sent out basically to find Amari's scout plane, Tone number 4, and basically take over for it and confirm and get ship types for what it had been seeing. Because Amari is running out of gas too. He's got to come home. Yeah, more like 40, but that's okay. Sorry.
No, that's the point.
Yeah, that's why. No, let's see. VT3 adding. Except they're not. That's a lie. That's a lie that Fuchida tells us. Yes. Right. Okay, so this is the central myth of this battle, is that at the time of the dive bomber attack, the Japanese were ready to launch against us. We talked about that last time as well.
So these are all the dive bombers then, not torpedo bombers from earlier. Okay.
Yep, these are our dive bombers. Yep. except they never saw as more than two. Because by this time the Japanese formation has been pushed apart because of these constant air attacks that have been going on. And so Soryu and Hiryu are 8, maybe 9 miles away from Akagi and Kaga. It's a really distributed force, and there's still a lot of cloud cover. And so nobody ever saw more than 2 carriers, maybe 3. There's a little timing mismatch here, too. Torpedo 3 actually attacks at the very same time that these guys are going to attack. In fact, at the end of the dive bomber attack, Torpedo 3 is still running in and trying to attack Hiryu and will be running out afterwards. So that wasn't really properly understood, though, in 1976.
Okay.
All right.
They're about to make their run.
So the situation now is we've got planes from Enterprise coming in from one direction. We've got these dive bombers from Yorktown coming in from another direction. The Japanese are between hammer and tongs at this point, and stuff's about to get real.
And they were attacking all 4 like the movie suggests, or just 2 of them at a time?
Yes. Well, the group from Yorktown is only going to go after Soryu.
Okay.
Hiryu is being attacked by their torpedo planes, VT-3. Here we have George Gay, who says he was able to see all of this. I am highly skeptical that he actually was able to. Oops. What do I hear?
Yep.
So on Akagi.
Good.
Carrier Kaga, played in this movie by a late war Essex-class carrier.
Whoop.
Oof.
That's what the dive bombers like. I just watching it, I don't know if they're crashing or if they're just doing what they're supposed to do.
Right. Yeah, it's a little confusing, I grant you. That's a big hit.
I got a hit.
Boom. Scratch One Flat Top actually is a line from the Battle of Coral Sea. So they thought they'd transpose it here.
Why they reuse stuff from Pearl Harbor? Might as well reuse stuff from...
Absolutely. You got it. So this is Yorktown's bunch. Kagi was the last of the 3 to be attacked.
Okay.
Didn't actually hit the bridge, but
it's a nice bit of dialogue to let us know that they have no fighter cover. We got so lucky. Thank you for letting me know as the viewer.
Thank you for filling us in. Yeah. In reality, George Gay was miles and miles away at this point. Do I think he heard explosions? Yeah, I do, but I don't think he saw what he says he saw.
Okay.
Yeah, don't tell his grandson that. His grandson who camps on his Wikipedia page and will not let anybody, put any edits in on his grandfather's page. It's kind of interesting. Yeah, that's a bad day at the ranch.
Wow.
So this is the carrier Hiryu. They're the only ones left at this point with an operational flight deck.
That was so fast to take those 3 out.
Yeah, it all happened within 5 minutes.
Wow.
It really was very, very fast.
Wow. 5 minutes.
Yeah. 5 minutes. He wasn't actually wounded in the attack. Right. So this is our one remaining aircraft carrier. Kobayashi is the dive bomber commander.
Okay. Scout 4 still hasn't sent anything back, huh?
No.
You just put an X on that piece of glass and good luck.
Yeah.
Right here.
Which they didn't use, but that's okay. We're obviously using the innards of an American carrier to pretend to be Hiryu's bridge. All right, so here's Kobayashi's bunch, the dive bombers from Hiryu.
Oh, they're just going to follow the planes.
Bingo. Which is pretty much what happened.
Oh. Well, that's smart.
Yeah. Well, we've got dive bombers that are skedaddling back home, and so yeah, there was actually an encounter between some of their fighters and some of our retreating dive bombers, which actually ended up pretty badly for their fighters.
Oh.
Okay. Well.
Oh, there's a Charlton Heston's guy. I bet you were going to find out what happened to his son.
Right.
Oh, now tell me if in the 2019 movie where he practices the landing on the carrier,
landing.
If somebody does that here,
you got a problem. This is all combat footage from later in the war. All right.
Yeah, he's looking for his son.
Yep. Oh, I think I know what's going to happen. Yeah.
Uh-oh. Oh, yep.
Uh-oh,
Here he comes.
Yep. You're hurting.
Yep. Get a little bit closer to see.
Yeah. There's a famous piece of footage here. Oh, but he's alive.
Yeah. Okay. Maybe he didn't die.
Yeah.
I half expected him to just hit the carrier. Okay.
Uh-huh. Yep. That's also the correct distance. The paint jobs on these pseudo-Japanese aircraft are not legit. It should be green. But the whole topic of the coloring of Japanese planes, again, in 1976, they didn't really have a good idea.
Yeah, I mean, at that point, they probably just like, okay, these are not American planes, so therefore, that's what they...
the whole modeling community, that's a whole different thing. They get real persnickety when it comes down to the colors. And understandably.
So do the Americans not have any planes up in then either? Then it looks like
we did, but actually, let's pause here too.
Okay.
One of the problems that you have at this point in the war is, okay, I've got radar. That's great, but radar is not a panacea. I still have to be able to take that radar input and then use it to effectively vector my fighters and put them in the right spot, and at the right altitude. And a lot of these early radars didn't have the ability to actually discern the height of the target in some cases. So the fact that they're only, intercepting or trying to intercept these guys when they're 30 miles away, by the time you get to 1944, we would be intercepting these cats out at 60, 70, 80 miles away. So we really have not got our fighter direction mojo working at this point. And as a result, this squadron of dive bombers, yes, they lose some planes to our fighters, but the majority of the squadron gets over the Yorktown and they're going to do their thing. So roll them. Again, using late war footage of some of our ships getting hit by kamikazes.
But they didn't have
That's what you're
they didn't do
seeing.
kamikazes in Midway, did they?
Yep. No, there weren't any. Kamikaze's a late war thing.
That's what I thought. I remember.
Although there were a couple of occasions where, a damaged plane might try to sell its life dearly, but it wasn't an institutionalized thing the way it becomes in late 44.
Right. Like the when you talk about the 2019 movie, the Bruno Gatto aspect of I think that was Marshall Islands, right? But that bomber that came in.
Right. Yeah, so Yorktown gets beaten up pretty badly in this attack. Takes 3 hits.
Again, it just seems like after just being repaired.
Yeah. And she certainly was on fire. It's right on the money.
Is there a reason why they would use voice as opposed to before they were using, or just for the movie?
Because I think from a storytelling standpoint, it's just easier to just do it this way.
And I appreciate that from a viewer. I appreciate them doing that because I'm not good with Morse code. But
yeah, exactly.
But I was just curious because they do show it. I mean, a little bit of both. So I was just
yeah, that's kind of a little incongruous there.
Real heartfelt moment.
Okay, we patched up this relationship.
I guess they made up.
That never existed. Okay. I feel good about that.
It only took one of them almost dying to do that, yeah.
Right. That's all essentially correct.
Oh, he's going to be a pilot now too?
No.
Amazing.
Okay.
Because why not?
Right.
I like him. He's a good character.
Okay. This is all completely fabricated in terms of Rochefort was down in his cave. Nimitz was in his,
he's got to get that fourth carrier.
There's actually none of this. None of that
happened. None of that completionist. I got to get 100%.
No. Nimitz, honestly, this is recycled Tora footage too. Okay, so here's Tominaga's plane. So Tominaga's going out on a one-way mission because he hasn't got enough fuel. to make it back.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Which is historically, I don't know. I ground the numbers on that. It's ambiguous as to whether he would have been able to make it back or not. Torah footage. Nimitz, just flashing back to him, he's completely in the dark on a lot of what's going on here. He is letting his people on the scene run this. Fletcher and Spruance have got this. So,
which makes sense because especially even just earlier in the movie, we see even with the scout planes and the amount of information they're giving, even the people who are there don't know all the information. So of course, Nimitz
Bingo.
back. Yeah.
No. He's basically doing a lot of waiting.
Yeah.
All right. This is the second attack on Yorktown. This is Tomonaga's bunch.
And now we're going to have a new
10
pilot,
torpedo planes.
formerly an intelligence officer / electrician / engine. I don't know what else, like everything.
Slash, yeah, relationship repair guy.
/ therapist / yeah.
Therapist. Right. Okay, so now how are we feeling about Dad's odds?
You know, honestly, like I expected the son to pass away, like you said, but now I don't think the dad's going to make it. I think that's going to be the last moment of them.
Yeah, I think that's right. So we're sort of compressing a whole bunch of events at this point. Yes, there is a follow-on strike from actually Hornet and Enterprise that are going to sink Hiryu. So I don't know why we're taking off from Yorktown for this job, but whatever. Meanwhile, the Japanese are coming in to attack Yorktown.
Okay, so they're both kind of...
Yeah, except historically, the Japanese attacked way before this strike that would have gone off to attack Hiryu actually happened. So we're squishing some stuff together here. Booms. And this attack was chopped up pretty badly. They lose, I think, 5 of the 10 planes that they come in with, the Japanese. That didn't happen. No. So it's interesting as we're going further in the movie, we're playing a little faster and looser with the facts here. Yeah.
Yeah, I guess they gotta, wrap it all up.
Yeah, exactly. Our runtime is getting a little long here. It's time to get these carriers sunk and get back home and get this romance patched up. That's the important thing.
Yes.
No. There were no kamikaze attacks on. This is per Torah footage.
Was that supposed to be the guy who his fuel tank was?
I guess so, and it's interesting because we've already seen attacks by I don't know how many Japanese planes at this point. There were only 10 planes that came in. They made a single pass. Oh. They dropped 4 fish and 2 of them hit, and that was pretty much it, but that was sufficient to. Yep. Sufficient to put Yorktown out of action yet again and abandoned because she's listing very heavily at the end of this attack.
Okay.
So now as far as the Japanese are concerned, they've set 1 carrier on fire. They've torpedoed a 2nd carrier. They think they've done in 2 of our carriers, but it's actually both times it was the same ship.
Oh.
Because Yorktown was able to repair her damage from the dive bomber attack, get back up to speed. She was no longer on fire. So when the torpedo planes came in for that 2nd attack, they're like, well, it's a Yorktown class carrier. She's up to speed. It's got to be a different one.
But the Japanese didn't know that they have Charlton Heston who can do everything and he can fix it all.
Correct. He can fix it all.
Okay, because Spruance is sending up planes.
More planes, yes. Yeah, I'm not feeling good about Dad's odds here.
Yeah. Don't.
But he's got the steely jaw, he's got that going for him. That's no proof against any enemy anti-aircraft guns, right?
No, don't shoot him. Look at him. You don't want to shoot
right? Yeah, he's got the weak chin. Take him out. Oh, man. Right. So now, supposedly flying over the Japanese carriers that have been hit earlier this morning, that didn't actually happen either, but that's okay. It looks impressive.
Yeah. I mean, even if the carriers were on fire, they'd still have people on them and such. If they saw planes, would they shoot at them, or would they be so out of commission that they
were so out of commission? Yeah.
Oh no!
Oh crap!
Didn't see them coming.
Oh, who knew? All right, Dad. Do your thing.
Is he playing the role of Dick Best now from the 2019 movie? See, here's where I don't know if Dad's going to pull out of the dive or...
Yeah, hard to say.
Got shot. Oh.
Yeah. Dude, drop your bomb. All right, the old man does one for the team. Yeah. Okay, does he get jumped by fighters? Played in this movie by another American destroyer. That is word for word correct.
Really? Wow.
Mm-hmm. Except that this whole exchange happens at about 2 a.m. and everybody's exhausted and
they're not watching the ship during the day burning in the...
No. Yeah.
We're going to have a repeat of the scene where he comes in and almost crashes.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Will we reuse the same footage?
The same footage, yeah.
Oh, that damn flap.
I'm an electrician. What do you expect me to do?
Why am I flying a plane? Bomber?
How did I get here?
I'm a doctor, not a dive bomber pilot. Damn it, Jim. Right. I'm not feeling good about this.
No.
Not feeling good about this.
It doesn't look very lined up.
Oh.
No, I don't think he survived
Tough to walk. Yeah, you don't walk away from that, I'm afraid.
Oh, there he is, still in the water.
Yes. Took a while to get him.
Finally picked up now that the battle's over.
Yep. Yes. Yeah, there are a lot of people still floating around the water after the battle.
I bet a lot of the pilots and stuff too.
Actually, the last group to be pulled out was a group of about 20 engine room crewmen from Shiryu that had been afloat in a boat for a couple of weeks.
Wow.
Yep.
Oh, he's going to find out about his dad now.
Yes. Oh, there she is. Okay, I think the relationship is, going to be reparable, but That's a legit question. The ending is like really corny. I'm sorry. Just
You gotta turn this into, this was a big victory for us, even right after
right.
main character passed away.
Yeah. The American race shown forth in Splinter. Okay. Winston. Thanks, Winston. Okay, so we've learned something about the 13-year-old brain in that because looking back at this now, okay, from an historical standpoint, this movie is better than the 2019 one in that it at least has the fuller range of characters, right? We see, which also makes it confusing as hell. You just keep trying to keep track of all of these dudes in planes from what ship, but at least all the ships were there. A lot of the squadron commanders were there. What we've learned about the 13-year-old brain is that being very visual, as I always have been, when I saw that clip of a destroyer impersonating the battleship Yamato, I was done at that point. The 13-year-old boy in me is just like, yeah, this movie is trash. But it actually, I'm surprised. It's better than I remembered. I have to give it, a B, maybe even a B plus in terms of they're using direct quotes from, the battle plan in some cases, and also between the American officers at least. So, yeah, I was pleasantly surprised, gotta say.
Okay, I mean, I feel like if they had just taken away the romance part and the whole Charlton Heston character, maybe it would have been an A. I mean,
yeah. I am intrigued as to why they felt that they had to create this completely fictional role for him, because he and his son are the only two fictional characters I think that we encountered during the course of the movie. Everybody else, even the bit players that you only see for 30 seconds, Lem Massey, the torpedo squadron leader for Yorktown, who's like here and dead, within the space of about 15 seconds. They got him on the screen, but yeah, I don't know why they felt that they had to do away with Edwin Layton and create a Captain Gatch. I guess maybe they felt from a script development standpoint that we had to have, a major character die, and therefore this is our dude who's going to do that. I don't know. That was all very strange.
Something to tie into, I mean, the romantic side, and then being family, and maybe tying into a bigger war type story of how it affects the family back at home and all that kind of stuff too, and trying to do too much with the movie.
Yeah, I think that's right, because all the characters who do die are other than him are superfluous. They're these bit players that, like Lem Massey, who just shows up, or John Waldron, who shows up and then dies. And so from an emotional connection standpoint, unless you have a main character buying it, okay, and that means that I have to make somebody up to do it. From a mythological standpoint, I look back at this and I say, well, this is the state of scholarship in the 1970s, which was not all that advanced. The two of the most famous books on the battle, one of them hadn't actually even been published yet. That was Miracle at Midway, Gordon Prang's book. That comes out in the 1980s, and so we're ahead of that. Walter Lord's Incredible Victory, which is a marvelous book, that came out I think in 1967. So that would have been, they're building their account on Lord's book and also Fuchida's book, Midway, the Battle That Doomed Japan. And so that's why you see things in the movie, this notion that, Yamamoto is not sharing all of the intel information that he has with Admiral Nagumo. That is false. This notion that our reserve planes were lined up and ready to go on the flight deck at the time the American dive bombers attacked, that's pure Fuchida. So, there are some fallacies in there. But the other thing I was sort of intrigued by, yes, we do see in that dive bomber attack that the Americans pull off against the Japanese, which is the climax of the movie. Yes, there were Japanese planes on the flight deck, and that helps continue this myth that Fuchida tried to establish in the historical record. Although intriguingly, so this movie came out in 1976. The Japanese official war history series called Senshi Sosho released the Midway volume of that series in 1973. And in that volume, they explicitly call BS on Fuchida's account of events. So they had interviewed a number of the survivors within the Japanese carrier force, and they explicitly say in that volume that at the time of the attack, all of our strike planes were actually down in the hangars at this time. But of course, nobody on the American side of the pond is using Senshi Sosho. We're not reading that stuff. And so it isn't until Tony and my book comes out in 2005 that portion of the account actually gets clarified. So, because of Fuchida's book and what he told us happened during that dive bomber attack, he essentially froze American scholarship on that portion of the battle for the better part of 50 years. And this movie sort of helps continue that mythos that Fuchida set in motion.
Well, you mentioned it. So I will mention your book here as well, Shattered Sword, the untold story of the Battle of Midway. So for viewers who want to get a copy, I'll make sure to include a link to that. But can you give a little peek into, you mentioned some of the differences between what we just saw in the movie versus what actually happened. But can you give a little peek of your book?
Well, one of the biggest ones is that at the time of that dive bomber attack, the Japanese were nowhere near ready to counterattack against the Americans. That all of their strike planes were still down in the hangars at that point because they'd been busy using their flight decks to, run combat air patrol operations to beat off this constant stream of American air attacks that have been coming in all morning. So that's one of the biggest myths. The other one, I could go through the laundry list, but again, the role that the Doolittle Raid plays within the battle planning. In this movie, it makes it sound as if Doolittle's attack is the sort of the spark to let Yamamoto get his battle plan over the hump. The truth is that he had already gotten it over the hump bureaucratically 2 weeks before Doolittle even came in and did its thing. Another myth is, in this movie, the pilot of Scout Plane Number 4, Tone Number 4, he's the GOAT. He's the dude. He's screwed up. It's because he went off late that, Nagumo doesn't get the information in his hands when he needs to. And it's actually, there's way more nuance around that. It's almost difficult to explain, but yes, he ends up launching late. But because he launches a half an hour late, he ends up flying his scouting route differently than he was prescribed to have done. It looks like he flew right up the middle of his wedge or something, but he ends up actually detecting the Americans 30 minutes earlier than he would have otherwise had he flown his proper scout route. And we don't know what happened there. Like I say, Amari does not live through the war. But the fact that he ends up detecting the Americans sooner than he should have is actually a piece of good luck that gets dropped in Nagumo's lap. And yet in this movie, that wasn't understood. And so they make him out to be, one of the scapegoats for this whole thing. So there's a whole list of reclarifications that Tony and I try to do around this very important battle in the course of our book.
Thank you again so much for your time, Jon.
It was really fun for me to see it, and I appreciate you having me on.